Good morning. Good morning, my friends. Today, we're going to talk about belonging. Do you belong? Do you feel like you belong? Or do you feel like you're like, I don't know, always on the outside of things, just not quite connected, you know? I've had some big things go on in the last couple months, and I had a really cool moment of belonging. We're also going to talk about what is your 100% and how to get out of this comparison zone where you compare yourself to others based on your 100%. It's really detrimental. It's so horrible. We're going to talk about that today. Welcome. I'm Ann Ferguson, and this is a live walk and talk. So I have had a crazy couple of months. So many things that have happened and so powerful. It's kind of like, you know, when you're a butterfly, not that you're a butterfly, but caterpillars. They eat and they eat, they eat, and they get knowledge, and then they go, I'm cocooning. So I just went to a cocoon for a little bit, and not ready to fly yet, but I feel like my wings are spreading out again, and I'm ready. So, belonging. I create circles. I create like-minded communities where people start to talk about who they are and get really authentic, really real, shame-free, judgment-free, makeup-free, sometimes language-free. And we find these places where we all are the same. And the thing about that is while it's super great, and I've got really great friends because of things that I've helped people understand, there can be a place where I still feel like I don't belong fully. If any of you are on a journey where a lot of the things that you thought in the past are shifting around, it can feel like you're all of a sudden out of the club. Different ways of thinking make that happen. So, I have created belonging, but to just belong has been kind of awkward for me. In my family of origin, I don't really belong. I'm different. My good brother jumps on here to watch the lives once in a while, and he and I have very different lives, even though we're in the same family. My other brother and sister, very different values, very different ways that we think. And a lot of that is just due to some things that happened with my parents where belonging wasn't a thing. We were all kind of, you know, the family, but it's not like I felt like I mattered or was important or that I belonged. So I had an experience 2 weeks ago that was absolutely fascinating and awesome. I got invited a year ago to participate in a family history birthday celebration. My uncle, he turned 80 years old and he has 8 daughters, 8 girls, and those 8 girls decided to give him a special trip back to Michigan. My mom's from Michigan, he's from Michigan, and it was all about going and having him tell stories as he showed us around his stomping grounds. Like, I've heard some of the stories, but to actually be in the places of the stories was just so cool. And what happened was really interesting to me. The first day that we got there, we went to a family barbecue. First of all, we were scouring a bunch of gravestones, and my cousin is a genealogist, and she was telling us all sorts of stories about people that I come from. And that was all fascinating and good. But then we had, like, people came. One girl came all the way from Texas to come out to Michigan because we were there. And we had a family barbecue. No big deal. I've been to a lot of family barbecues before. Not my family. So, like, have a really good friends that were vital to me in my transition in divorce. And I used to go to barbecues with them and hang out with their family, and I was always accepted, but I was also on the outside. Other families, I've done that. I've moved every 3 years for the past 15 years, so to establish a really well developed group of people that I hang with isn't a thing. And so I thought it was going to be like that, you know? And then I started watching the people that I was around, and they were acting like me. And music came on, and I'm doing this because music runs through me, and I start kind of dancing, and I look over, and my mom's cousin, who I just barely met, is dancing. And then somebody else is dancing. I'm like, oh my gosh, they jam to music like I do. The conversations, the way they flow, the busyness. Like my aunt, I don't know what she is. I'm going to call her Aunt Patty, but she's not. She's a cousin of my mom's. So busy. Like she'd never sat down. And was just loving all over people. And it was just fascinating to watch. Because as I sat there and looked, I went, oh my gosh, I belong to these people. Like I actually belong somewhere. It was, I contemplated it while I was riding in the van back to our Airbnb, and I'm like, I belong. And I don't think I've ever had that feeling of belonging like I did there. So I definitely found out that I take after my mom's side of the family. It was the strangest thing to feel absolute belonging. I'm curious now, kind of choked up curious. You know, Christ talks about that I'm his all over the scriptures. And I wonder what that's going to feel like, the belonging, when we realize who we actually are and how we actually all work with each other and how important we are and our tendencies, our traits, how much they gel with this feeling of belonging. Brene Brown talks about it, that belonging is what we're all seeking. I didn't fully understand that until I started to say, I belong. Later on, I got home and I got a couple of messages from some of those people who found these walk and talks and like, oh my gosh, you're doing such a great job. And for whatever reason, it meant so much to me from family who I had just barely met, who I didn't know at all. So that's kind of an interesting thing. My dad didn't like my mom's family, so I never ever went up to Michigan or met these people. So it's kind of an ugly duckling story, you guys. That I've just been a little bit odd, a little bit different than those people who I grew up with. And it's like I found my swans. And they're busy people, and they're all about family, and they walk barefoot. Oh my gosh, you guys, if I could be barefoot all the time, I would. In fact, those of you who know me from high school, I always had my shoes in my hand in case a teacher got after me, but I would be barefoot everywhere I go. And this cousin, totally barefoot all the time. Like the whole time we went, so we saw her probably 4 or 5 times. I never saw shoes on her feet. And she had little feet, not as little as mine, but my feet are size 2.5 children's. And her feet were little and they had this high arch. And I went, oh, that's my feet. You have my feet. There were so many things that made me feel like I belong. So I became closer in family history kind of stuff because we went to these graveyards. And after the experience of belonging to these people, when I went to those gravestones, it was different. Like these are my people. I belong to them. And it felt really different. So I just want to share that. For whatever reason, God said, we need to talk about belonging. I'm curious as to whether or not you feel like you don't belong. Do you feel like you're kind of on the outside? So there's this picture of sunflowers. One is bright and beautiful and all the petals are out and it looks fantastic, and the other, same colors, there are not as many petals and it looks a little battle worn. Sometimes that's what makes us feel like we don't belong. We look around at everybody else and they're all shiny and they're all doing super great things, and their strengths are our weaknesses, and we compare what that looks like. So I just want to talk about your 100% for a minute. Like, where are you battle worn right now? So comparisons are a big deal, and we can try not to compare, but the reality is we've kind of grown up with a standard of this is how it's supposed to look, this is how you're supposed to be, and you need to measure yourself against the standard in order to see if you're showing up the right way. That happens in public school, it happens in churches, it happens in society all over the place. There's a standard, are you meeting it? And so because of that, we have a natural comparison thing. And we don't just stand in who we are and the way we should show up because it's what you are. So 100%. What is your 100% today, and how does it look? Is it fantastic? Is it battle worn? Where are the places that you're battle worn? I have been battle worn financially. Oh, definitely in business. I have a natural tendency towards certain business things, but I'm not sure what I'm doing. I just do what the Lord says and then things work out. But I'm not like a savvy business person, in my mind. Battle worn in my mothering other people's kids, like so much more loving and connected than my family does. I'm battle worn spiritually. I've got a very, very tight connection with Heavenly Father. But sometimes when I'm at church and people say or do things, I'm like, but it's not quite right. And so I can feel tired and beat up. So I want you to think about that for a minute. Think about your 100%. I just went through something. Didn't know if I was going to talk about this or not, but I experienced something on Saturday that took me out. Like, took me out to the point where I cried a lot. Saturday and Sunday. Sunday I came to church and I decided to just show up. You know how you don't want to show up when you're like totally battle worn? Because you're embarrassed, like you don't want people to see and stuff. That's what was going on in my head, and I went, no, I'm going to show up in my 100%, and my 100% today is pretty freaking weepy. I walked in, and I must have looked way more battle worn than I thought, because I walked towards the women's meeting. We call it Relief Society. It's like Relief Society, offering relief. And I walked in, and somebody who I hadn't seen for quite some time looks at me and she goes, "Are you okay?" And guys, I stood in authenticity and I said, "Nope." And she, So I walked out with her. I just received a hug from her and just the "I see you" kind of moment. And that boosted my 100% just a little bit, My 100% was super weepy. It was kind of awkward because I'd been texted by the teacher if I would read a quote and then give my opinion on something. And it was like hitting the very freaking nerve of what was going on in my world. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. So rather than sitting and worrying, my 100% was, I'm going to be weepy. So I texted during church and I said, "Hey, I'm super weepy. This is kind of what I'm dealing with. And I would, if you want me to share, I will share. And if not, I will not. And you might want to get somebody else to do the quote." And she goes, no, I think this is important. I don't know who needed to hear what I said, but when we hide our battle wounds and our 100% from people, sometimes it distorts the world. Because if all we have to compare is just that, like that beautiful sunflower, it has all its petals. If that's the only measurement we have, then we're all falling short and we don't make the grade. But when we show up authentically and sovereign, so sovereign means that I'm showing up and I didn't require and or want it. I received hugs and I loved it and it was really divine, but I was not requiring anybody else to take my wounds, to heal me. I'm not a victim. I was just feeling what humans feel in a very, very difficult situation. And if we can just own our feelings and go, yep, today's a sad day. Today I'm battle worn. Today kind of sucks. Then the level of what's quote unquote normal, the standard of what we measure ourselves in, it changes, right? It changes. And we find out how normal we are. We find out that the sunflower is not going to regain its petals. And yet what was fascinating on that picture is that it was still turned towards the sun. And I found in my experience that was so deep and so rough is that turning towards literally the Son of God and just saying, I have no idea. Like, I'm so far out of the zone of knowing what to do. I'm giving this to you. And I'm not giving it to you like a victim, fix it so I feel better. It is a situation that is beyond my understanding and beyond my control. And I can be taken out and be battle worn for a long time. I can wear it as a badge of honor in some weird level of victimhood. And I choose not to. I choose to go, you are God. You've got this. You've got the person that's involved. You've got me. And tomorrow, maybe my 100% is going to be a little bit better. And today, guys, this is my 100%. And it looks way different than it did on Saturday and Sunday. And even Monday. It just looks really different. So let's take out the standard thing about what you should look like, what you should feel like. My 100% today is a little funky because I haven't been doing this for a while. I don't have my groove on and I'm still here and my 100% is okay. So here's another thing about your 100%. Your 100% is going to fluctuate daily. So some days you're going to get out of bed, you're going to stick on your walking shoes and you're going to get going. You're going to feel awesome and the world is going to hum. And other days your 100% is I got out of the freaking bed. And guys, way to get out of bed. If that's your 100%, that's it. So you have a flow of your 100% every day. And your 100% is not going to look like anybody else's 100%. That they get to shine and be fantastic while you're feeling crappy, and it can flip around the other way and you can feel fantastic and somebody else can feel crappy. And all of it is okay. I just want you to know that. If you are feeling like you are failing, me too. If you feel like you failed, me too. It's kind of a big deal. What's going on? And I had to battle what that was. in the middle of a conversation that I was having that was one of the hardest I've ever experienced. The bully got going. My husband was looking for a credit card that we used to pay for my eye surgery. And it was right while I was on this conversation. And I couldn't find it. And immediately I felt my 1% isn't good enough. I'm irresponsible. I'm ditzy. I'm forgetful. I went right to the place where I thought that card was. Like the last time I saw it, it wasn't there. And the bully rushed in and told me that my 1%, and it was effort to be there, wasn't enough. And then my husband had noticed there was a letter from the sheriff's department addressed to me, all while I'm still in this conversation. And I went, oh crap, because a month ago we got my tires changed and like the car feels so different. And I came out of the temple, been having a daddy-daughter date with God, was feeling so happy and so good, and I did not know how fast I was going, and I got a speeding ticket. Shame shows up, guilt shows up when you get a speeding ticket, right? So I got this speeding ticket, and you can't contact the court for 5 days after you get the speeding ticket. Well, 5 days later, I had 20 people that I was responsible for at the mentoring apprenticeship kickoff retreat that I did. And then after that, I have an Australian friend who came up, and then I jumped on a plane and went out to Michigan to find out that I belong. And guess what I didn't do? I did not take care of that dang ticket. And so my husband's like, what is this? And immediately I'm hiding, I'm sneaky, I'm shameful, I'm dishonest. All of those feelings were rocking the little bit of 100% that I had to give. And you know what I did? I called out his name. And I said, I'm feeling all this, and I'm feeling the attacks, the shafts in the whirlwind, if you will. And I need you right now. I need you right now. And I was able to feel this whoosh of acceptance, love, self-acceptance, self-love showed up in me. The reason why that was so important is because what was being told to me, there's another part that I had been fighting that says you failed. You failed God, you failed this person. Life is going to change and it's going to suck and it's all your fault. And I had honestly, this is a mom thing. I'd done the absolute best I could with the light and knowledge that I had, and I was so confused about what was going on in this conversation that I said, no, I gave my 100%. I gave my 100%. That's where I was standing, trying to hold on to that when all the rest of this was coming. These shafts in the whirlwind and the bully. Here's what I know. I know unequivocally that there is one God. And that He is divinely and lovingly interested in my good, in my joy, in my success, in my happiness. And the law of opposition exists, and that means that there is only one enemy. And that enemy is intimately invested in my destruction and me giving up and me falling to my knees, but not standing back up. So in this moment of me saying, I need you right now, I need you right now, this self-acceptance and self-love happened because what was needed on the other end of that phone was unconditional love and acceptance. And whatever was going on, not being about me. And although it was affecting me deeply, emotionally, I was not shoving those emotions, pretending like they weren't happening. That's another thing that Satan really loves to get us to do. Oh, just stop being aware. Like, big girls don't cry. Never let them see you sweat. Get a hold of yourself. I was very aware of how distraught I was over the situation and how confused I was. And I felt the failure. And instead of shoving it back and making it be that what was going on was somehow harming me, and how could you do this to me, and all of that, I was able to take those emotions of failure and doubt and shelf them for a second, because I needed to stay present and hear that on the other end of this phone, the person that I loved had been going through one of the most difficult experiences of their life. And I needed to hear how courageous they were in being willing to share with me what was happening. And I needed to say, I'm going to need a little bit of time to process this, and I love you. I'm so dang grateful that you've trusted me with this. So let's talk about that trust for just a minute. I'm going to talk to you about the Igniting Your Belief class and what it does. If you've said it to yourself, you've said it about others, your kids have said it. I don't want to tell them blah, 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 because I don't want to make them feel blah, blah, blah. I don't want to make them mad. I don't want to make them disappointed. I don't want to make them hurt. I don't want to make them have any emotional experiences that are negative, because I love the person and I don't want them to go through that. No one can make me feel anything, and I get to feel whatever feelings come up in any given moment. But if you experience emotion and deflect it and flip it onto them, how could you have done this? Or just sit and cry, or depression, and what it is dissociation from the experience, like not staying present. If that's what you do, you retreat, then you're not safe. It sucks. It sucks so bad, because when I was upset as a kid, I was told to go to my room until I could handle it. I was told to just stop, to get a hold of myself, to suck it up. And so what happens is, if I'm in a space where something is happening, I dissociate. I remove myself from the situation and go into a different kind of existence where I'm there and I'm hearing, but I'm not fully present. And that's because I'm hurt and I'm wounded. And I was taught that when you're hurt and wounded, you need to get away from everybody and lick your wounds and don't let anybody see them. And while that's true, it's about not giving your wounds to somebody else to fix. That's what sovereignty is. To be able to feel what you're feeling, stay fully engaged and present with both emotions. So to be able to say, I don't know what you're about to tell me, but I can see right now that this was a big deal, and I just want to honor how much courage you have that you're willing to even share with me what's happening. The person who was on the other end of the phone was very, very sensitive to the fact that this was going to rock my world. And I was able to see the sensitivity and say, I'm grateful for the way that you're handling this. And I can see your love for me, even though this is going to be rough. I crushed the bully, because I stood in unconditional love and acceptance and offered as much as I could to this person about what was happening, and said, is there anything that I can do that would feel really supportive of you right now? The answer came back, I don't know. And I was, okay. the shafts in the whirlwind, got sucked up by Christ's love. I'm only telling you this not because to boast. It's because the emotional regulation that I teach and practice, it matters. Like I've said before, as I've taught moms how to do this, that you really want to be able to be present in any given situation and not react with an emotional charge. That is one of the objectives and goals of the Igniting Your Belief class. And I have said before, because the moment that somebody needs to have that great big conversation with you, you need to know what to do. Whatever is going to happen on the back end of this, and whatever pain and grief that is going to go on as rebalancing happens, I really, really want this person to be able to come to me and say, I'm having a hard time today. And if there's judgment, and I can't believe you did this to me, and what were you thinking? You knew better, or that's not what's happening, you're lying, you just aren't seeing, and not honoring their truth, I'm not going to be safe. And what does the bully want, you guys? He wants your loved ones to not belong to anyone. He wants them to feel like they're all alone, that they're not seen, they're not heard, they're not understood, they have no support. Sometimes it's hard when it challenges the very core of your being. But with Christ, it's absolutely possible. I just want you to know it. It's just so possible to actually sit in your 100% out there in the world looking so nasty. You look tattered and torn, and people who have opinions about what's going on are going to judge you in your 100%. But your 100%, the only one that it matters to is Christ. He is the only one who defines you. And this after all you can do mess? After all you can do, we interpret that as you have got to go into absolute weariness before it's possible to stand and have rescue come into you. It's kind of like, the Utah Mormon pioneers. After they've bled on the plains and starved, then the rescue party comes. We kind of think that that's what it is. And I'm going to tell you it's not. Based on the experience that I just went through, it means that after all I can do in breathing, in trusting, in fighting the bully, in the moment, I didn't have enough. In me, I did not have enough. And so after all I was doing, the Lord showed up and made up all the difference. So maybe that's what we've got to change. Maybe it's all that you're doing. After all that you are doing, He will be there in the very moment. Not after you do. But please share this video. It's a little bit rough today in the way that my brain was thinking through things and talking. It's kind of normal. If this was helpful, if you know of somebody who is really, really comparing themselves to everyone else and feeling like, they're just not enough, their 100% is okay. You need to tell them that. You can share this video. I would love for you to help people know that these things are going on and that I'm talking. So that's it for tonight or today. I'm going to go finish my walk and I'm going to go teach. All right. I love you all. See you.